Welcome to A Piece of CX. This week we're going to take a look at the Nice CXone Mpower 25.2 release review. So second release of the year from Nice. And again, huge release, lots going on. I've given up trying to do a top 10. There's far too much. So let's start going through some of the major features that are of interest within the release and how you might utilize them. So we have a new feature called data streams. This is IVR logging improvements. So you have had the ability for a while to be able to log various different IVR steps, and there have been other functions called self-service analytics, for example, in the past. Here it's taking logs into areas for, say, machine learning and data analysis. No indication yet if this is also going into CXone data share. But the idea being, if you can bring it into external platforms, that you can then interrogate further and enhance and improve the customer experience. Knowledge Hub. This is big because for the last few years, one of Nice's major plays has been CXone Expert, their knowledge management acquisition from a company called MindTouch a few years back. Now they are opening up the suite. So it's not just a case of having to sell CXone Expert. If you have a customer already on another knowledge platform such as eGain, Guru, SharePoint, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Zendesk, even custom, you can bring them through Knowledge Hub. And this also then extends out into the autopilot, so the customer facing IVAs, and Copilot, the agent facing options as well. We're starting to see Smart Reach emerge within this CXone Mpower suite. So Smart Reach is one of a couple of outbound acquisitions that Nice have made in the last couple of years. This was at the end of 2023. In fact, I was presenting a 3-day workshop on the Nice portfolio and talking about how it grows, when on day 2 of that, we got a news flash that this was an acquisition that's coming. This looks like a really strong outbound capability, probably succeeding personal connection. And we're starting to see that come into the platform. So as we see that get added to platforms, we'll probably do some more videos on that as well. CRM ticketing as a channel is a new thing. So plenty of companies have CRM ticketing. Now you can bring it through as a channel, work it with the agent, and also work it within Interactions Hub, report upon it, and also utilize it for quality, which I'll chat about later on. Enlighten Actions has had another update. So really strong part of the platform. You might have seen a recent video on this channel on that. Business data support. So if you are utilizing business data to augment further data throughout the journey, you're now seeing that come into Enlighten Actions, and they're offering root analysis for anomalies, which is something that's reported at the top of the page. Within Agent, there have been some updates as well, generally on the digital side of things. So the interaction search for the digital side has been a little bit static. It's not got quite as many columns as the previous digital experience used to have from the Brand Embassy acquisition. And now with 25.2, there's more customizations. You can resize columns, you can fit more in, you can change your filters as well. And because of that CRM ticketing that is now supported, you can create CRM records as well. And there are just a few other little UI changes within 25.2 for the agent. While we speak about agent experiences, this is a surprising one. Auto Summary is now supported in Max. I would still say if you're using Max, start to look at moving across to CXone Agent. Max was due to go end of life at the end of 2025. The suggestion here is if Auto Summary is now supported, potentially that's been pushed out a little bit. We'll get some updates from Nice on that. But realistically, there's so many more features now within CXone Agent. Is it really worth staying in Max just for Auto Summary? Even though it is quite valuable, get your agents across into CXone Agent and the whole host of other capabilities such as Copilot. Speaking of Copilot, there is now a function called Task Assist. This is essentially pulling in from Bot Builder, and it's used to bring information from third-party systems. Within Copilot, you can also edit prompts, customize text, and there are now 9 more languages. So it's not just US English. So that means things will be spelt properly now. We'll have U's back in words, and all kinds of other good things for international support. Moving on to Bot Builder. So firstly, those building tasks have come in for Task Assist. There is also an area of Flow Designer coming into Bot Builder. I'm sure I've spoken about this on a previous release. Looks like it's finally here now. And Bot Builder now has a voice. So very exciting. If you want to use Nice's native IVA, then Bot Builder now is great for digital and voice. A significant change within the world of CXone Mpower is dashboard and reporting. This is interesting because actually dashboards only got a refresh that went GA at the start of 2024, but with new architecture underpinning everything, essentially we're going to see a whole host of updates to dashboards and reporting in the next few releases. I'm just going to open my blinds as the sun has gone in here. There we go. That's a little bit better. It was a bit too sunny earlier today. Real-time widgets are going to be improved and sped up. Likewise, historical have been sped up. And there are new models in the back end of reporting and also supporting dashboards as well. The dashboards have some improvements for omni-channel and digital. And the quality score widget has had some updates as well. Likewise, the SLA widget. Big thing here is the ability to create dashboards from reporting templates. So instead of having data in different formats, essentially you're going to be able to uplift something from a report, pin it straight onto a dash. There's currently 6 reports in the 25.2 release where that's going to be supported. CXone Expert brings in Gen Search or generative search and a lot of reporting around that as well. And if you are using the Gen AI prompt editor, you might have seen a video on this channel recently on that. Well, they're now starting to bring more capabilities into that even further. So the ability to version control something, to roll it back and to delete it within the prompt editor. Previously, it was just a case of adding it. And now there are more use cases. So you can create prompts around, say, summaries or articles. There is now an extended max length as well. So you can go up to 500 words on a summary, which is probably great for those longer conversations as well. And within the prompt templates, there's even greater autonomy. So you can decide what you want your responses to look like within, say, Copilot and Auto Summary. Interaction Analytics has had a slight update in terms of additional metric filters. So that's worth taking a look at as well. The IA structure within Nice has always looked fantastic. It had a complete overhaul in the last few releases with the ability to add filters across one workspace or across individual widgets as well. So it looks like we've got more coming in there in terms of additional metrics. And whilst we stay in the area of interactions, we'll move to Interactions Hub, which is recording playback essentially within CXone Mpower. There is now the ability to set IVR segment privacy. So if you're recording IVRs, so before a customer gets to an agent, you can decide who sees that. One big thing on a look and feel basis, the left-hand side of Interactions Hub was quite busy with about 20 odd different things you could apply as filters to recordings. That has been tidied up. You now have a filter button from which you select which filters you want to apply, and then only those appear on the left-hand side. So it just makes life a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner. Big thing here is triggering evaluations direct from a player. So this reduces the number of clicks, which essentially makes life easier and more efficient, more effective for those reviewing calls and doing it on an ad hoc basis. So previously you'd have double clicked to play back your interaction, then you'd have gone back to Interactions Hub to evaluate and then select a form, etc. Now within the play you're going to be able to trigger an evaluation direct. And data policies, further enhancements there. So if you're looking to gear some rules around compliance and various other things within your recordings, then data policies is well worth taking a look at. And essentially what we're seeing is the Compliance Hub and other areas of the wider Nice recording suite, so the Nexidia range, coming into CXone and making that stronger. Whilst we stay in what would traditionally be called workforce optimization, we'll take a look at quality management. Now, quality management from Nice CXone used to be one of the strongest suites, but I would say some of the more challenger players within the CCaaS market have started to catch up and overtake Nice to some level. So updates in this area are interesting in that, one, the new ticketing channel is supported. So you wouldn't have to do, say, an employee evaluation Evaluation Insights is now here. Now, this was talked about, I believe, in 24.3 as, oh, it's coming, but it's not really available. It's on a controlled release, and it was US only. So trying to get your hands on it was not easy. This is part of the QMA, so the QM Advanced and the QMP, QM Quality Management Premium licenses. This is going to give you top strengths, areas for improvement, all that kind of good stuff. Looks to be very similar to potentially what Ring Central are doing with RingSense, and also some of the areas that we're seeing with Zoom Contact Center and other players. So I don't think it's quite fully automated quality management like we're seeing with, say, third parties such as AutoQA. There is also a Create Coaching button in the evaluation summary. This still feels like something that could be automated, but we're getting there one step at a time. So if you click Coaching, it will assign the coaching to you as the creator, and you can say what you want that coaching to be. So we talk about less clicks, being more effective, making life a lot easier. And we're also seeing quality management now come into Enlighten Actions. So you can start asking, hey, what are my top performing agents from a quality perspective? Who are my low performing agents? Who need some support, for example? Within Studio, we are seeing some updates. And when I talk about Studio, we're talking about Web Studio now. So Web Studio went GA last year. It's been on a continual improvement curve since then. And whilst many will still build in desktop because it's a comfy pair of shoes, it does a lot of good things, actually there's more and more coming to Web Studio with every release. So improved conversion of scripts from desktop to Studio. This is one thing that's a bit of a bugbear, is if you've got a good looking script in desktop, you open it in Web Studio, and it just doesn't look right. And likewise, if you build something in web, then move it across the desktop, again, it doesn't look right. So interested to see what happens once the 25.2 release fully pushes out, so we can see what that looks like. And this one's quite big as well. If you're working between scripts, one of the great features on desktop was copying and pasting. So if you were creating certain scenarios, you'd create it in one and then you just copy and paste it into another script, it was fine. You couldn't do that on Web Studio, but now you can with 25.2. So working across Studio scripts is going to be easier within Web Studio. If we move on to CXone Supervisor, well worth, before going into the features, checking out Club One. The community is now, I think, nearly 2 years old. There was a webinar earlier this week that the team held, and well worth being part of that. So if you are a team leader, manager of people, or just interested, if you're like me working in pre-sales or in CX, get yourself into Club One. There's all kinds of extra data there that you can look at and make use of. So when we talk about Supervisor, we're going to talk around a few things that have now been updated in Supervisor. So firstly, you can simultaneously use Supervisor and Agent. It used to be one or the other. So if you're one of those hybrid roles, you had to be just an agent and put your supervisor duties to one side, or you would be a supervisor and not be able to be an agent. Now you can use both at the same time. Maybe we're getting to the point where maybe we're going to see agent surface within supervisor at some point to make it that one-stop shop. Or maybe we're going to see supervisor appear in agent again to make it one-stop shop. But that's more of a hopeful thing and not speculation. In terms of working states, previously, if you were working digital interactions, it showed you as available, which wasn't true. And likewise, if you were in after contact work, it showed you as unavailable, which also isn't technically true. Now they are updated. So there is now a digital working state and there is now an ACW working state. So your supervisors will have a more true reflection of what is going on there. You might have heard of the click to call feature that's released recently. That is now available outside of the US, which is always good. Because it means that more folks can gain access to it. So now available click to call in Canada, Germany, Japan, and the United Kingdom. So again, once we can get that up and running on a demo, you'll see it in a video soon. Let's finish up with workforce management. So CXone Workforce Management is still on a bit of a delta between IEX that is being closed. And it looks like the eventual goal is to have feature parity and capability between the two. Although the CXone WFM team are also looking at how they can differentiate and offer different things in a slightly different way. Automated brake policy has come in with 25.2. Likewise, greater fine tuning of schedules, for example, and flexible schedule optimization. Now, schedule optimization is a WFM advanced feature, but whenever I've played around with it, it's a really cool feature in that you can basically say, I've got a load of breaks here. I've got a load of agents. Based on what you're seeing today, can you just optimize that a bit for me? And you set your rules for it. You have to acknowledge it by a certain time in the day, and then it assigns those accordingly. So a really strong release from Nice, as you might expect. Huge amount of updates. These are starting to be pushed to platforms already. So I noticed that the Interactions Hub change has happened. It depends where you are in the world. It depends what aspect of the feature. And some are feature toggles that we need turning on within the platform as well. But if you want to know more around CXone Mpower, subscribe to the channel. There's a playlist for CXone Mpower, and a piece of CX series updates at least every Monday. Sometimes there are extra videos depending on what I'm working on. And if you ever have a question about Nice CXone, just get in touch. Details are in the show notes. Thank you very much for joining me.